the show actually starts.
It gets to 1, and then your editor can remove it, anything
Yeah.
extra that's before.
I've been messing around with the editor quite a bit, trying to get familiar with that. And I know that's where the magic is going to come in.
Yeah. The reason we have to do the 10-second countdown is sometimes we have to spin up recording studios, and it gives our server a chance to spin up a new server if we need to in that
And
time.
guess what? I now see the more button. It is there.
Oh,
visible.
you do? Okay. So on that, do you see enter tile view?
Yep.
Okay, click on that, and now
There
can you
we
see
go.
you and me?
Yes, I can.
Okay. But send me the other issue you were seeing. Let's describe it as best we can. I'm sure you were just somehow in full screen view. Whatever.
Yeah. So I think I'm ready to get started. And
Okay.
I love that you're able to take a chance and come on the show. This is literally the second episode I've ever recorded. And God bless you for being willing and humble enough to just come on and hang out with me for a little bit.
Yeah, and we love supporting Podup podcasters. So anything we can do to help you out.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Podup, of course, because not only am I an investor, but of all the podcasting platforms I was looking at using, I looked around and I really love Podup the most. And I guess you could consider this like the intro to the show, along with intro to Nathan Gwilliam as the founder. And I don't know if you're also the CEO, but you're definitely the founder and CEO of Podup. And I'll give a little quick intro about you of what I know, because I think you're one of the coolest guys in tech that I've met personally. I mean, I know a lot of cool guys, but you're one of the few guys that I've met in person that I've actually invested in their company. I've invested in companies where I've never met the founders in person. I don't restrict myself to just Utah because of that. But from what I know on LinkedIn and having conversations with each other, you've been in digital media in one way or another for at least 2 decades, probably longer. And you've worked at Deseret Digital Media, where you helped explode their growth. You worked at adoption.com. You founded that, as far as I know.
Yeah.
And you exploded that.
When I was a junior in college, I did that. Started that.
And where did you go to college again? Was that BYU?
BYU, yeah, down in Provo.
Yeah. I was a UVU grad myself, so
it's a good school.
It's exploding in growth over there too.
Go Wolverines.
Yeah, and now you exited adoption.com and did a whole sabbatical of doing a full podcast yourself, doing a daily podcast. I think you took some sort of challenge to just see if you could do it every single day or something like that. And I thought that was really cool. That was very commendable.
That kicked my butt. That was so hard. That was a challenge from Russell Brunson. He made a promise that if I would publish every day for a year, I'd be financially free. And I did it, trusted him. And it was the impetus of how we started Podup. I realized I needed, more than 30 different technologies, and they weren't integrated together. They were missing a bunch of the functionality. They cost almost $2,000 a month. And I realized there was a huge opportunity for someone to create this all-in-one podcasting platform. So we started building that about 4 years ago.
And I came in as an investor almost a year ago, I think. I can't remember exactly how long it's been, but I came in on one of your first rounds. And I put in basically what amounts to enough to get me in the door, I guess, for lack of a better term.
Well, we're sure grateful you did that. Every little bit helps when you're starting out with this.
That I do know. I've got a lot of friends who are all in various phases of raising money. I know a bunch of angel groups that are investing in different things. And I always have thought it's way more about who you know than what you know or anything like that. And that's one of the reasons why I wanted to start this show, is because number one, I do know a lot of really cool people executing on their vision, whether it's professionally or personally or any vision that we have for ourselves. There's probably a bunch of different facets to everyone's vision. And so I didn't want to confine this show to just business vision or personal vision. It's just whatever your vision or visions are for yourself, and however you describe those and however you envision things in your head. I kind of want to see what a vision is to you personally and how you're going to execute on that vision specifically, as specifically as you want to be. I want to just make this a platform for people to state their intentions for the year, because statistically speaking, when we tell our goals to other people and we have accountability partners that way, we're 76% more likely to achieve them. And we all know that 42% of all statistics are made up. But I think the rule of thumb there is the more people you have who know your vision and your goals, the more likely you are to achieve them. That's just what I've seen in my life. And I think you would agree with that as well.
Yeah. Yeah. So do you want me to go through and explain the
For
big
sure.
vision?
Yes, sir.
So I'm in the middle of a big, hairy, audacious goal. I think
Nice.
I, it, it's something that is kind of consuming me and has consumed me for years now. And when I realized this opportunity to create this all-in-one podcasting platform, I kind of bet the farm on it. I took essentially all of my net worth and put it into this, and um, worked, put a lot of time unpaid into it, and mortgaged my house and use that to get by as we built this, um, and I think I found my opportunity, right? I'm a serial entrepreneur. I've built and sold 3 different ventures. This is number 4, and I think I found the one. I think I found the one that is my last one. That I'm not going to have to do another one ever again. And I think I found the one that has the chance of being $1 billion company. I think we've hit the market right. I think our timing is right. I think we've done something very unique. And so, a little over a year ago, we got to the place where we're ready to do an MVP launch. That first launch where you've got a lot of problems with the software, but you got to get real people using it. You got to stop building what you think people want, and you've got to start building. You got to get real people in there using it so they can tell you what they really want. And so we got there maybe a year and a half ago, and started putting people in. And as we did this, we found a really interesting niche. There are software companies that are out there that kind of do the do-it-yourself software, the Scripts of the world, the do-it-yourself podcasting platforms, the Libsyns of the world. And then there's the podcast production companies that help companies to build their podcast using the DIY software. But the problem is there isn't a software that has all the tools in it. And so even those the DIY companies can't really service the businesses. And the businesses can't really, if they go with the services, it's so expensive because they've got to still buy all the software and they've got to pay people to use this disparate software that's not integrated. Nobody's really come up with a solution for one specific market. And as we started selling to that MVP audience, we found that the underserved market where there was the greatest opportunity, where there was really nobody in the space, was the CEO, the business, who need a podcast but don't have time. They know they need it as a marketing strategy, but they need help. They can't do it themselves. They don't have the expertise. They don't have the time. And so we started servicing that market, and we started a done for you podcast production and marketing agency. using our software. And we believe we're the best in the world at doing what we're doing already, because nobody's got this all-in-one software. And then we've built this amazing team here in the U.S. and we've opened an office in Jaipur, India, so we can do it at an incredibly reasonable price. We offer right now the sale pricing that's happening right now. We have 40 plus different podcasting services we offer to produce, grow, market your show, and it only costs $2,997 a month. For $3,000, you can have someone, you record the episodes and then have someone do all the dirty work for you. And I'm not aware of anybody on the planet that can offer that kind of service for that kind of price, and can do what we can do. And we found a really fun niche with it. And so we're running with that. One of the biggest reasons we're running with it right now, and so this goes back to answer your question, what our focus is for this year, our big, hairy, audacious goal. So right now, everything is focused on getting profitable. When you achieve profitability as a company, you become the master of your own destiny, right? You're not desperate. You don't have to take a bad funding deal. If you can't raise funding, you still can survive and you're not going out of business. And you can grow organically with profits. And so our first goal that we have for this year is get profitable. And the way we're achieving that is we added a services dynamic to our software, and we are running with that. And we believe we can get to profitability here soon with that one revenue stream. And so that's focus number one. And we realize that to be $1 billion company, we'll never get there as a services company. It's just not possible to get that kind of valuation from a services company. But if the goal is to get to profitability first, right, and to be able to then grow the software out of profitability, then services make a lot of sense. And the services is a group of people who are using our software and giving us feedback, and we're getting better as the software is getting better as we get to profitability. So goal one, get to profitability through services and improve the software so that we can then launch that and achieve the $1 billion valuation. And obviously we can't guarantee the $1 billion valuation, and obviously we won't do that this year. But we will move the software so much further along through this initial services model, and as we roll out the testing and everything for our customers. So we're to a spot now. My wife and I, this has not been announced publicly. So this part I'm going to share because it fits really well with what you're talking about with these goals for 2025 and what we're doing to make sure they get achieved. Last summer, our burn was as high as $230,000 a month. We were having to raise $230,000 a month just to get through. We've done a lot to cut our burn. We've done a lot to increase revenue, reduce expenses. Last month, our burn was only $61,000 a month, and we're getting better. It should be less than that this current month. My wife and I believe so much in this business that we've been preparing our house for sale. We've bought what we thought was our settling house. It's on about 4 acres and it's 5,400 square feet, and we have hundreds of trees and orchards and greenhouse and berry patches and grapevines. Like we have our own pond. We've done so much to invest in this, solar panels and and we thought this was the one we were staying in. But we believe so much in this business, and our goal of getting to profitability and getting this business there, that next week we're actually putting our house on the market for sale. We've been working the last little bit to get our house fixed up and to get the extra stuff moved out of the house and into storage units, and hopefully everything's ready by next week and it goes up on the market. And then we believe we can pull out enough cash from this sale that we can finish out this funding round ourselves and not even have to raise any more money from anyone else. We've raised a lot of money. We've raised about 5.3, 5.2, something like that, $1 million so far. So grateful for our investors. And we believe, my wife and I believe so much in where this company is at today that we want to be the ones to put in the rest of the money and get this company to profitability. So it kind of shows the level of commitment we have to reaching that profitability goal this year.
That's a crazy way to do whatever it takes to make the company profitable. I'll be the first to say I don't know if I would ever do that kind of thing with any venture. I've started 3 of my own companies, and all of them are still operational. Uh, I know for a fact I personally would never go to that level of money raising.
Craziness.
Not only that, though, I know my wife well enough now. We've been married 20 years this year. I don't know how long you've been married,
Yeah,
but
26 years.
when you're married that long, you start to realize, as an entrepreneur especially, your wife really is your best business partner. If you take advantage of her talent and her skills and her complementary talents to yours. And I didn't realize that until like 12 years into our marriage. My wife has all these amazing abilities. I never once asked her, what do you think about this business idea? But since I've started doing that, I made a lot better decisions in all sorts of ways. So when I hear you say your wife and you came to this conclusion, this decision, that says a lot about you in a number of different ways. It means you're smart because your wife has intuition and intelligence that I don't think we as men have naturally
Yeah.
in as much of that measure of that particular sort of intelligence. So when I hear you say that she's behind this with you and you're going forward with that decision, it adds a whole element of weight and value to it. I think that you wouldn't have any other way.
Yeah. I definitely married way above myself, and you're right. She gives very wise counsel. She's an amazing wife for an entrepreneur and has been incredibly supportive through our ups and downs over this entrepreneurial journey.
Well, I think you're lucky to have that support, and I'm honored that you're making this announcement on on my little show.
When
It,
will this go? When will this go public? I probably need to tell my board and my shareholders before it goes live.
I can hold off on posting this to whenever you feel,
Okay. Yeah,
but
give me a little bit. They're going to know here in the next few weeks. But
yeah, I am trying to every show I record. I'm actually my goal is to get it live within the week of it being recorded because I'm trying to do a show a week at this point. But if I need to release this one after I've done a couple of more, that's no big deal. It's
yeah, I would
not,
appreciate that. If you could give me a few more weeks, give me like 3 weeks or something, that would be
yeah,
great.
that's no big deal. And my first show, which was just me talking about my backstory, I actually, true to my saying on my wall, vision with execution is reality. I intentionally talked about who some of the people were that I wanted to have on my show, and you were one of those people. And so there's several other people that I'm definitely that I know will come on the show and just we'll have a good time. And so I never said in which order I'd have any of those people, so it totally doesn't matter to me.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, and if you want to go into any more detail about how you're going to execute on this big, hairy, audacious goal, you're more than welcome to, because that's the other part of this equation. Is having a vision is one thing, but executing it into reality,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah. So let me tell you about a couple of really cool things that have helped make the realization of this goal possible. Some big pivots that really mattered. So so at first we were offering almost all of those services in the United States, and we were paying U.S. wages for those. And so to provide those 40 plus services, we had to charge $7,000 to $8,000 a month to people for us to do the do-it-yourself podcast marketing and production services. But we have a long history of working with India, and I've been working with India for decades, and there were some people in our company that thought that a lot of the services could only be provided in the United States, that they had to be provided in the United States. So we got to a spot where we challenged that, and we said we don't believe that is a true assumption. There's a few of the things like account management that need to be done in the United States, but the vast majority of that podcast production and marketing can be done in India. And so this summer we open an office in Jaipur, our own office. Historically, I've worked through India, we've hired agencies, and the agencies did the hiring and provided the office and the computer and the desk and the HR and all of that kind of stuff. We paid them a middleman fee, maybe $1,000 or so a month per employee to manage that all for us. And we realized that there were some problems with that model, because if you have $1,000 overhead cost for every employee, you can't hire what are called freshers. They're the young employees. Maybe they just graduated from a master's program. And here in the United States, when we hire graduates, we do great with those graduates, right? There's a lot of our jobs that those recent college graduates can do really well. But when you're paying that fee to an agency, you can only afford to hire senior, expensive developers. You can't afford to hire someone that that costs a lot less, because the overhead just puts them way out of the price range. And so when we opened this Jaipur office, and we realized once we had this fixed cost covered, which we did, of the office space and the management and that kind of thing, we realized how cheap it was to hire these additional team members in our Jaipur, India office. And so then we went through this exercise of, okay, what is every single task that we can outsource to the India team, and how do we change our systems and processes to improve the quality while sending them to our India team. And by doing that, through that exercise, we realized that we were able to drop our costs from $7,000 or $8,000 a month for those kind of that everything package down to $3,000 a month. And at $3,000 a month, there's 5 times as many businesses that can afford that. It makes podcasting, it kind of changes how podcasting happens for businesses, because a US company cannot do those services for $3,000 a month. There's no way they could hire anybody in the US, a team in the US, to do those services for that price. And it makes us the cheaper, better, higher quality solution than essentially any company in America can do. And it's really helped our sales, and we're even able to do it more profitably at a better profit margin than we were doing it before. So it's being able to drop the price while keeping a very healthy profit margin has really helped to fuel our growth. So I recommend, if you're in a business and you're thinking you can't outsource something to India or Philippines or whatever, I encourage you to challenge that, because that might be the answer, right? If you can hire, you can hire 5 people there for the cost of one person here, right? What can that do to your business to have 5 times as many people, or to do it for 20% the cost?
And if you want to know how to do that, everybody just call Nathan.
It takes some effort to get it up and going. you can't do that for one employee, right?
Right.
Um, but if you can do it for a team, there's some really good economies of scale there.
That's smart. I love it. So with outsourcing to India efficiently, that definitely sounds like a strategy that it would take somebody with a lot of background experience in it to be able to execute on that. And so I don't say that to discourage anybody from trying, by the way, but if if I'm thinking to myself, how would I execute on that if I wanted to go do that today? And I'm just thinking to myself, I would need to know the right person probably to help walk me through some of the hurdles that are going to happen there. And you're obviously incredibly well versed in doing that from top to bottom. But I suspect there are likely consultants that could help anybody navigate that solution, that situation. And that is a principle that I live by, which is it's all about who, not how. So if you've got a vision and you know you want to execute it on it, but you're not entirely sure how, think about the who first. That's what I always tell people.
And when you're working with India, so like I said, I've done it for more than 2 decades now. When I started working with India, there were people who told me that I needed a CTO in the United States who managed my India team, and that's bunk. That is a dumb idea. I learned very quickly that you need a manager over your development team in India who's there when people are coming in and out of the office, who isn't having to work till midnight and then get up at 6 a.m. You're not having to juggle the schedules and the hours and you need someone that's there when your team is there. And you need someone that understands the culture, and you need someone that can build the relationships with them that just are too hard to do remotely. And so finding your, as you talked about, finding your who. If you're going to do an India team, your who is is your first who is your manager who is in India,
Yeah.
who can be there and help you figure this all out and build the team. There's no way we could have done this if I would have had to be the manager, managing it remotely.
Yeah, nor should you. You're the CEO running and executing the vision and putting all the right who's in place to make that happen.
Yeah. And we have a phenomenal who. Like, there's no way we could hire a better who in the United States, than the who we got there. He's just knocking it out of the park.
That's awesome. What if there's anything else that you can think of that you're doing right now to execute on that big vision?
So one other thing that's really helped us is when we were selling at a large ticket price, it was too high for most people. And so everybody had us go a la carte. They all kind of cherry picked which of the 40 services they wanted. And so we had all of these different clients that all had different contracts. Nobody was the same. And it took a lot more effort to manage service delivery when it was a unique service delivery across all of the different clients. And I don't deserve credit for this. Stu Draper, who's our chairman of the board, came up with this idea. But his idea was just get the price down and then just bundle everything together. And when the price is low enough at 3,000 and everything's together, and that's really all you lead with and you try to sell with is the full bundle of all the services. Almost every single customer now buys everything. And we actually are making more money per customer by lowering our prices than we did trying to sell everything, because we're not doing it a la carte and people are taking the full bundle. We also, in going with the full bundle, uh, there's a huge savings that happens because when you have to deliver, think of like McDonald's that makes the same hamburger over and over and over again and then sells the same hamburger over and over again, right? They have it systematized versus a restaurant that is like made to order based upon what the person wanted, right? They're custom making every single burger that comes out. Um, it takes so much less effort to mass produce burgers, to have a system, an assembly line of burgers. By coming up with a package that is so unbelievably good and so well priced that almost everybody just takes the full package, it allowed us to turn our service delivery into an assembly line where you just say this is what we do for everybody, right? And you're just systematizing it across. So if you can do that in your business, if you can come up with something that you can do for everybody and have the same system and process for everybody, it just saves so much effort and so much friction from your service delivery team. Makes it so much faster and so much less expensive to deliver those services.
Well, yeah, I can confirm that's true. In my business that I founded, Torque Media, I decided a long time ago that it was I was going to take a chance on that idea. And this was back when I only had 100 sites at my disposal. And I just was like, instead of selling one site at a time, I'll just bundle them all together and sell them as a monthly access fee, publish unlimited articles. And it looked on paper like I was taking a huge haircut on potential revenue because on my average cost per site was around 25 to $30 at a time. And so if you just do that math and I had 100 clients, it looked like on paper I would lose a ton of money if I bundled all of them together and gave them away unlimited usage. But it turns out it did nothing but increase my income, my revenue. It drastically reduced the time I had to spend or my team had to spend managing any of that because we implemented some systems and processes that allowed us to do that. And it's way easier to sell it as a bundle of everything included, everything in the kitchen sink, basically. And I think I don't know what this says about the way you and I think, but or maybe me and Stu think, but I've felt that same way for a long time, and I've seen it work in my own business time and time again. When you have everything standardized, you don't have one client getting this thing and another client getting that thing, and they all just get the same, and it just makes things so much easier on all sides for the clients too. It's like they don't have to remember, well, what do I have access to with that amount of money? Now they know it's everything. So it eases their time spent. It reduces friction, like you mentioned.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway,
Totally agree.
we're all on the same page there. Win win win. So I think, given that this is the second episode I've ever recorded, my closing is not scripted or anything. I have no idea how I want to end my shows, but other than to say this has been a wonderful conversation. I'm so glad I've known you this whole time that I've known you, which is before I ever invested. I've known you and got to meet you in person, which I'm really grateful for because it doesn't happen all the time. And um, I guess I'll ask. I may not ever do this again for any other show, but it just occurs to me to ask: do you have a favorite saying from anybody for any reason that you like to put out there when you're ending a conversation with anybody?
Um, Hold on, give me a second. I've got some up on my wall here.
Yeah, I figured you're the kind of guy to have some sort of saying on the wall.
Give me just a second. Let me pull one of these up. Okay. So I love that quote that Steve Jobs used in one of his commercials about here's to the crazy ones. And I don't know if you remember that. It was a commercial that Apple did, and he wasn't. I don't think he was the original person that said the quote, but he's the one that made it famous. And are you familiar with which quote I'm talking about?
I'm pretty sure I've heard it. I could not quote it to you at all.
Okay. All right. Hold on a second. Let me pull it up here. I'm gonna. Okay. So the quote is, all right. So I'm going to start from the beginning and answer this question again, editor. Um, so there's a quote that really resonates with me from Steve Jobs. He's not the original person that said it, but he's the one that made it famous. And he said, "Here's to the crazy ones, the misfits, the rebels, the troublemakers, the round pegs in the square holes, the ones who see things differently. They're not fond of rules. You can quote them, disagree with them, glorify them, vilify them, but the only thing you can't do is ignore them because they change things. They push the human race forward. And while some may see them as the crazy ones, we see genius because the ones who are crazy enough to think that they can change the world are the ones who do." And that just really resonates with me. I just see the world differently from other people. If you're one of those people that just kind of sees the world differently, and sometimes you think, oh, I don't fit in, I'm not like everybody else. Tell yourself hallelujah, right? The goal isn't to be like everybody else. The goal is to stand out. It's to do something different. It's to be remarkable. It's to be crazy enough to take those risks, um, and change the world. Do something really good that's going to bless the lives of a lot of people.
That's beautiful. That's a great way to end. And I wish there was a class in junior high that taught kids how to think this way, because if they really knew how unique and special they each were in their own way,
Yeah,
the young kids, the young generation would have so few they would have so many less problems with depression and anxiety and
yeah.
stress, because they would know all.
Are you still there, Adam? Can you hear me? Adam, you've frozen. If you can hear me, I cannot hear you.